I mean, like it's pretty self-explanatory, but it was such a pleasure, and I think it's a really underappreciated show. I thought it was like visually really gorgeous. Some of that footage of Paris was just so luscious, you know, like warm and vibrant, and made me want to go to Paris, or perhaps Altus Paris. You know, whatever, I'm not picky. Big phone in my pocket, that hurts. So yes, I was the ADR director. We should be getting a Zeno shortly. We might even be getting a Hayden. No? Okay, we're not getting a Hayden. Hayden Daviau is here, and they were Amelia in the dub. So you can go up to their table later and tell them how awesome they were. And they were. Amelia, you all remember who Amelia was, right?
Yeah.
The first one who like, became the curse bearer. I'm kind of sorry Hayden's not here to hear this, but Amelia was difficult. Like, that role demanded a lot in a very small space. You know, Amelia, she was very prominent in the first episode and then made appearances in subsequent episodes, but Hayden had a lot of, that role took a lot of work, because she had to be so demure. You know, the character had to be so demure and pleasant and you know, sort of classic Parisian lady.
What? What?
Zeno's here.
Y'all, this is the first time Zeno and I have
met in person.
Woo!
Yes, that's been great. This is awesome.
Fanny Pants.
Fanny Pants. Hello. It is I. Shut up! Clap for me. I didn't ask for that.
Yes. And here we are. I was just filling, basically. We were lost back there for several minutes. We couldn't find the door.
Oh no.
There are no numbers on the doors. Whose idea was that? I don't know. Maybe they wanted to make it a puzzle. I hate puzzles. So yeah, no, I was talking about Amelia Hayden.
Yeah. Who's here, by the way?
Yeah, here, just not here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very difficult because it's an acting challenge. Because Hayden had to be so restrained, right? Like so tight and sort of, well, restrained is what I can't think of a better word than that. And then Amelia goes monster, and Hayden's performance of the monster side of Amelia was at least as engaging as the, you know, it was so gorgeous, and I don't know if I've ever been more pleased with a cast. It was an extraordinary cast, and I will tell you, I will admit to all in this room, including Zeno, that when that show got assigned to me as director, I had some really clear premeditations about how I was going to cast it. And then I heard his audition, and everything changed.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, and like, I mean everything changed. Like, y'all, I come from old school. I'm a theater guy. I'm like, and casting is not paint by numbers for me. Often in this business, you'll cast a show, and you know, usually, especially more so nowadays, you have to get approval for your casts, which wasn't the case some years ago. You know, I had a whole set of ideas about how I wanted that to go.
Can I ask who, like, your initial, is that fair?
I don't want to say that because, like, they don't know.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
no, I understand.
You mean I was going to be Vanitas? Yeah, I don't want that to go around. But actors who were very gifted and would have been great, and then, like I say, I heard this audition, and it changed everything.
Wow.
Because for me, that's what I was saying, I got lost in my own thread. Happens a lot, you guys. Old. So, for me, like, you know, you'll turn in a cast, you'll get approval, and they'll say, yes, we love all these, we'd like to switch this one. I can't do that. Like, I cast the voices together as ensemble, right? And so if you change one voice in the cast on me, like I have to change everything else because there's a certain music, there's a certain sort of tonality and a certain harmonic element I'm looking for when I put voices together.
Yeah.
And I had a whole other idea about the show. And it's what you do. You know, you're a director. I've been working for many years in the business. I knew like so many actors. And like immediately, you know, like we'd like you to direct this show. And you look at a bit of it and you think, oh, these couple of actors would be great for that. These would be great for that. And then in your mind, I mean, in my mind, I start putting the voices together and going, how will they sound in harmony, you know? And it all changed when I heard Zeno's audition, which was off the chain. And again, just like the work Hayden had to do as Amelia, Vanitas is a difficult role. Like it is an acting challenge because obviously, and really the easy part I would think is being really presentational and really big and you know like when you got a set of pipes like Zeno, you're doing that at 8 in the morning. You know what I mean? Yeah. But like it's those moments of restraint, those little moments where like the actors got to sort of throw lines away, or like my favorite throwaway for Vanitas was, well, that's a shame. I live for that. I laugh every single time it comes up. I'm like, ah! Yes!
Yeah, so good.
And that's kind of my theory of ADR, which is a little different than like others. But again, I come from a different background. Like I didn't grow up in anime. I grew up in theater, and I was doing on-camera work and television work. And when you're doing work like that, there's great power in the throwaway.
Yeah.
Right? And in anime, a lot of ADR directors, you know, you want levels in your audio, right? And a lot of directors just like, well, how are we going to vary the voices, the performances in here? Well, we'll just make the peaks higher. You know, we'll make them swing harder at the big moments. I don't like to do that. I like to make the valleys deeper.
Yeah.
Right? I like to whisper lines, throwaway lines. And I remember, and I will let Zeno talk in a minute.
No, I could literally listen to you talk about your process of directing the show the entire time.
I can go all day.
Please.
I hope you're all in for the 4-hour panel.
Yes.
If there's anything in this room next, Laura, cancel it. But yeah, I like to make the valleys lower because I discovered as an actor, and again, coming from a theater background where you, like, in unmiked theater, where you've got to project to the back row, right?
Yeah.
But when I discovered as an actor getting into voiceover, the power of the throwaway. Because the difference is, I can talk to you as if I'm on stage like this, and I am trained to be heard by the whole room. You can all hear me in the back, right?
Yes.
Training. But when you're on a microphone, your audience is 3 inches away from your mouth. Literally. The microphone is your audience. And you can, that's so stupid. Like you can throw things away, and it gives it such power. And there's this old psychological trick, you can try it on your friends, where like you can move people in a room based on how you speak. And if I'm talking to Zeno and we're having a conversation, and I sort of turn this way and I'm making a little choir, Zeno's gonna have to come closer to me to hear what I'm saying. It's a way of manipulating people, and who better than fanny pants?
To manipulate someone. Yes. Master manipulator.
Yeah, so I heard Zeno's audition and threw away my entire cast list. I'm sorry to all the actors who were on it.
That's so crazy.
And started from scratch. And as soon as and this is what I do, I will take the audio. I'm such a nerd about it.
So I usually would do this thing when like there was ever like new shows coming up. I would like research and I would look up every trailer of every new show coming up so I knew what I wanted to work on. Vanitas, I threw it, and I had this board, like a sticky note, so I'd write down and I'd put a sticky note. Okay, like this one, like Sakui Bisco, I think I want that one, blah, blah, blah. So Vanitas was somewhere on the side. Like, I was like, I don't really know how I feel about that show, blah, blah, blah. And then, so the audition came my way, and I was like, nah, I'll give it a try. Like, I wasn't necessarily interested in the show, but I'll give it a try. And I was like, whoever this is, they're probably gonna cast me as Noe anyway. So I like auditioned, like did my best Noe ever. I did my best Noe, and then Vanitas, I was like, I'm probably not gonna book this guy. So but I like, you know, I gave it my like good like 3-take shake, and I sent it off, and I was very shocked when I got Vanitas.
There was.
So here, this is crazy. So if you're all voice actors out there, audition for that thing. Like you never know. Like, you never know. Like. Just go for it. I was convinced, and I was gunning for Noe. I was convinced I would play Noe the entirety of the way, like going into that show.
Well, it's an issue of representational acting.
Yes, yes.
Which it makes sense. And you know, at first, I'll tell you the truth, I didn't notice Noe's skin tone. I didn't even it didn't even land on my retina. And then one of the producers pointed that out to me, and I was like, oh. I started reading up. I'm like, yeah, and you know that darker skin tone and with the white hair and the white outfit to sort of accentuate. Yeah. So it was a very purposeful thing they did in that anime, and it was one way to illustrate that Noe was from another place. Yeah. You know, he was from somewhere else than all the rest of the vampires. He grew up raised by humans in like regular Earth. Yeah. And of course. The reasonable thing, and I've contended with it a lot because some of you may be aware, I sort of specialize in directing queer titles. That's kind of like what I did for many years, and so I'm a big fan of making sure that the representation of creeds and colors and all of that is intact, you know, in service to actors who otherwise might not get roles like these, might not get considered for roles like these. But of course, what I eventually decided was the Asian man will play the dark side.
Yes! No, I was like, you know, this is fair! We both auditioned, and that's how it, that's what we asked for. That's we don't ask for like, we only want to play blah, blah, blah. I was like, This is fair. Like, I auditioned for Vanitas and booked Vanitas, and Steven auditioned for Noe and booked Noe. That's completely fair in this realm.
Yeah, and I like, you know, and of course there are a lot of actors of color in that show, all playing, you know, white-ass anime characters. But yeah, like just the timbre. Oh, and I was gonna say, one of the nerdy things I do when I'm getting ready to audition for a show, or audition a show, and I start getting the auditions, is I start putting them together. Because like I say, I can't just cast one-to-one. I have to put the ensemble together. I'm a big fan of Aaron Sorkin, what can I say? I put the ensemble together and I have to hear the voices in concert, right? So that you get, there's a tonality, there's a symphony of sound that comes from the right combination of voices. And the wrong combination of voices will destroy that. So I'm looking for timbre, I'm looking for pitch, I'm looking for like the comfortable notes where your speaking voice hovers, and how far away from that is your co-actors, you know? Are they a 1 step or 2 steps away that's a little dissonant? Do they need to be dissonant? No. If it's like, then, you know, you're looking at an interval of a 3rd or a 4th or a 5th, and that's generally where you get a really comfortable like interplay between 2 characters. You can easily tell who's speaking, and like the voices harmonize, right? And when I mean, Zeno, I heard Zeno's audition, and that was the end. I closed the book on the Vanitas audition. And then I immediately thought, wait a minute, Fu.
Yeah, that's a great choice.
I put Stephen Fu's voice next to Zeno's in GarageBand. And I'm like, this is gold.
You started a trend. After that show, Stephen Fu played my boyfriend in several other things. Like, cannot escape me. He cannot escape me. Every time we've been paired together in something, it's always been like 2 guys who are like practically in love.
You know what? It's a beautiful, and I'm not even to say nothing of your fierce acting talents and the many gifts that both of you bring to a booth, but like just those 2 voices. Just those 2 oral, you know, representations together. It's just this perfect combination. It's like Simon and Garfunkel. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's a beautiful. Thank you, someone is old enough to remember. You must have had parents. Yeah, and that to me, that's where the music of the show really lies. It's never in a single performance. even in a show like Vanitas,
Yeah.
which is Vanitas!
Yes!
Everyone else. So what, once you knew you were gonna play the role, are you an actor who does a lot of like prep and goes into deep, like Stanislavski?
I don't know about deep stuff, but I definitely like once I found out like Vanitas was like his name is on the title of the show, so I was like, okay, like I want to like make sure I really take extra good care of this project and property, especially if I'm going to be leading it. Or be co-leading it with food. So I like watched the first episode down. I usually watched each episode before we would record. So like I would watch the episode, so I knew like the peaks and the valleys of what Vanitas would go through in that episode. So like I would like want the jokes kind of prepared because there's like comedic moments and like any sort of deeper emotional moments because Vanitas he'll surprise us with those. Like I wanted to be sure like. Because like, you know, like, you know this from a theater background, like the more you rehearse, the more prepped you are. Because ADR works so fast, you have to summon up a lot of emotional energy in like 20 minutes, maybe 10 to 15 minutes. And I wanted to be able to come in with as much prep so I could like...
He was so prepped.
Oh, thank you.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Never has an actor come in, like already knowing how he wanted to do the scene 10 minutes away.
Yeah.
Like, it was amazing. And I do a lot of takes as a director.
Yeah.
And Zeno was always like, you know what, I got a better one. I'm like, I'm never gonna say no. Do it.
Yeah. That's so funny.
Things came from that process.
Yeah, that's something that like stays with. I'm always like, oh, like I have a better one in me. Like once I hear it back, I'm always like, oh, like I want to do like I kind of want to do something like this and da 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 da. So yeah, I would always and working with you on the show became such a joy that like I told my agent, I said whatever time they want, I don't care what time it is. If it's 8 o'clock after a full day, I want to go in and record the show. I just want them to have it, and I want it to be good, and I want us to have enough time to make it good. So
you're a blessed creature.
Yeah, as are you. As are you. There are certain things that are like incredibly special to work with, and I tell everybody because I've had a lot of Vanitas fans at this con come up to my table, and I'm always like, everything that show is, and the reason why that show is of the caliber and quality that it is I attribute all to your direction. Like you are a comedic, brilliant person. You're a brilliant person to work with. You're such a joy to like have on the other side. There's like nobody there's nobody else I would want to like work on the show but David. Like such a joy. Like he has such a great laugh, and you can tell when he spots the comedic moment, and he knows a lot of those funny Vanitas reads he came up with. Like he's brilliant, and I'm glad I could in person give you all your flowers. It was such a joy. I was so sad there was a week where there was no more Vanitas to record.
Yeah.
Because like you work on a lot of shows, you work with a lot of different directors, and everybody has their own styles, and some of you creatively meld with, and some you creatively don't, and it's okay. But man, like working with you was such a joy and a pleasure, and it's a top 10 dubbing experience.
Wow.
Wow. So good.
I mean, I can only reflect that.
So good. There's a reason, like, when the show came out, and it was in that era where I was like, man, this show's so good, it's gonna get buried in like, the shonen of the month, and I swore it would get buried, but like I think the dub clips, especially when Crunchyroll was promoting the dub clips, they had come out and people like gravitated to it, and I think that's why like it sort of burst in popularity in the way that it did.
Well, some of it got memed.
I
know that that's a shame moment. It got memed.
Yes.
So like I was like,
there was a lot of the steamier stuff that got memed too. I got a lot of like weird text messages like, "You voiced this guy?" And I was like, "You should not be watching that. Please don't watch that."
What would someone think of the children? Yeah, I mean, it was just an extraordinary experience. And, I casted, some of you may remember or be aware if you watched the sub as well, or like were hip to that I did some casting stuff a little differently. One of the things I think was most noted was genre.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask that.
Who in the Japanese was a very like traditional, tiny voiced, sweet girl. But to me, once I had my cast together, once I had the power of Zeno and like the counterbalance of Fu, and then you throw Ian Sinclair as like his George Costanza.
Oh my God, Ian is so freaking funny in this show.
Ian's great. But like once I had the cast together, it was like, and particularly once I had Alexis in as Domi, I didn't want a super femmy little genre. I wanted you to know, it's Joan of Arc, by the way. A lot of these characters in Vanitas are based on characters of actual history. So, you know, they're all sort of takes on, and listen, let me tell you, Joan of Arc wasn't no sweet little girl, okay? Joan of Arc fucked you up. And so I wanted a voice, and Molly Cersei, I'm like, I don't know, have any of you ever met Molly at a con? Molly is, I've been working with Molly for years. We did a lot of theater together before, you know, we started dancing around in anime, and Molly is one hell of an actor. I mean, she is just such a gifted and skilled and studied actor. And so I knew that she would be able to handle, you know, I was looking for the character, not the voice. That's what I do. Vanitas was lower pitched and sounded younger in the show, you know, or older. No, he sounded older and lower pitched. But that just didn't, those are all sort of tropes that work in Japanese audio, in the Japanese language. Like, there's a certain vibe attached to certain tones of voice in Japan that do not translate over here. So like, what I'm looking for is the character. I don't care if your voice matches the J, and I'm in a small camp where that's concerned. And sometimes you take some heat for it. And I know when Shauna first showed up, people were like, she doesn't sound like the Japanese. Well, no, she's not the Japanese actor. Right. But you watch that performance, and like the alacrity with which Molly can move from being this demure creature to this like warrior woman that you do not want to mess with. Like, there was nobody on earth but Molly to do that role, and I stand by that.
I do too. That's my genre. She's so. I can't imagine it without her voice.
Yeah, that's right. Cheers for Molly.
Yeah.
The other thing I did differently, and again, I think I did this in order to sort of adapt and accommodate the Western sentiment, which was Vanitas' brother.
Yeah.
Who in the anime, if I recall correctly, was voiced by a female. And because of the sort of steam that happens toward the end, there's this scene between Mikhail and Noe. You probably remember them. Where like it could read as really like intimate in a way that it wasn't. And especially for Western audiences, you know, Japanese audiences are a little bit more subtle about where they read that sort of hint of intimacy. Western audiences aren't so subtle about that. And so to have this this boy voiced by a female, which would raise his voice to an even younger state, against Stephen Fu, who was a very masculine sounding voice, sweet, but very masculine. It was going to paint vibes I didn't want to paint. So I cast a male actor as Mikhail, Bryson Bogus, who did a beautiful job. And Bryson has a very naturally youthful voice. So it still worked, right? But then having done that, I then had to make a decision when we saw the younger versions of Vanitas and Mikhail. And so because I had a male voicing Mikhail, as you know, in the age we mostly see him, unlike the Japanese, I cast different actors as the younger versions of these characters. And because I wanted you to hear the change, I wanted the audience to hear that they were younger then, that they were different then, that they were, you know, other creatures. And so instead of using the same actors to do the, and I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
But instead of using the same actors to voice those roles, I cast 2 female actors as the child versions of both Vanitas and Mikhail.
Yeah.
And then there was a point during the flashbacks where you heard their voices change to a slightly younger version of what you see before you. And so that was a different take than the J. But I still stand by that. I think it worked really well. I thought we got some, I like that the actors were different actors, which helps sort of underline that those characters are different characters when they're 10.
Yeah.
You know, different people, different humans. And oh my God, I mean, Jeremy Lee's Baby Vonnie Pants.
I was like, how does she sound so much like me? It was such a perfect cast. I was like, wow, like, yeah, that was a good job.
Yeah.
Like, and Jeremy picked up on all my little inflections.
Yeah.
And like, I think you even had the Vampire of the Blue Moon have a little bit of like the inflections that Vanitas has now, sort of the personality that he has now. Like, the Vampire of the Blue Moon had a lot of that, like in that season.
Yeah,
too.
I try to do that in family. I try to like so that you can hear the relations, and I'm often doing it sonically. Like I'm listening to the timbre of the voice and going, they sound like they could have come from the same stock. You know, because like, you know, you get together if you all have brothers and sisters. You get together with brothers and sisters. And it's not like you have the same voice and you sound exactly the same, but like usually it's like an appearance. You can see a relation.
Yeah.
Likewise, you can hear a relation. So this is all subliminal stuff that like nobody else on earth will ever think about. But I do it because of the sort of you know, the subtle nuance of that just makes it sound more real and honest.
Yeah, it's immersion.
Yeah, and I know that like a lot of people will be listening to that show and not thinking about all those details, but they'll hear the consistency.
Yeah. And
it'll feel real, and that's all I'm after. I'm just after it to feel authentic and real and like legit.
Yeah.
So casting was very challenging because of some of the decisions I made to make some changes. And I was given, you know, all the leeway I needed to do that. I mean, frankly, the producers are too busy to worry about it. So, you know, I just do my thing and then wait until they say, you can't do that. And I'm like, well, it's too late to re-record it now. A bit Machiavellian.
Who did you cast for the? It was Roland as Rico, and was it Waycamp as the other guy?
Waycamp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Such a great pair.
Oh, those two.
Yeah.
They so need their own show. Yeah. Those two just killed me. And Rico is just such, he is so Roland.
Yes.
Rico is so Roland.
It's such a really
He's just such a, he's a ray of sunshine.
Yes.
But he's also like a badass at what he does.
Yeah.
And like, he's a badass at things you don't know he does. And like, he's just like, he's so Roland.
Yeah.
He's a man of faith. You know, so like that resonated, and I wanted a person of faith in that role because I wanted to make sure that I refer to myself as a recovering Catholic, so I am not in that camp, and I wanted to make sure because we were having some fun with it.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure I wasn't alienating anybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was really useful to have a person of faith in that role, and like it was, I think it informed things beautifully. And just Rico, like he can do no wrong.
Oh my God, he's so
skilled
brilliant.
actors in the business.
Oh my goodness. Incredible.
And Alexis, I mean, hello.
Yes.
Alexis is like the Meryl Streep of anime. There's nothing
agree.
she can't do.
Yeah.
And like, she does it so well. She does it with such commitment and such skill. And this is, you know, it's not talent. She has plenty of talent. She was born with plenty of talent, but it's skill. Alexis has put in the work. She's done theater. Her mother, I think, runs a theater in Dallas. So Alexis is just steeped in acting traditions, multiple acting traditions. And what you can do with a toolkit like that. Alexis Tipton is living proof. I'd say, you know, in that same camp of actors who are just so skilled. Lucy Christian is another one that, you know, I was really kind of bummed that her role ended up being so small in Vanitas. I was really hoping for that trio to do some more together. But you know, Lucy and Alexis and Monica, these are some of the best actors you'll ever hear in anything, ever. Anime, theater, film, television, whatever. They should all have Academy Awards as far as I'm concerned, because their skills are insane. You know, and then you bring in a force like Mr. Robinson, and counterbalance that sunburst of energy with Stephen Foo's even just like, I mean, I adored every minute of working on that show. I've been monologuing for over a half an hour.
You guys want to talk at any point? We can talk about something. No. You probably answered them all.
I probably did. What was it? Did you have like any? What are some of your like favorite moments?
Oh my goodness. I remember.
I'll clarify. Some of your favorite moments in the end result of performance, but some of your favorite moments in process.
In process, I think I love anytime we were doing a thing and I would like say the line and you would go, try one where it's like. There was one where he was worried about Noe, and he was like, "Cause you make me sick," and you were like, "What if you went? Cause you make me sick?" You know the classic Vanitas rise that like I don't think any other character I've ever done has this, where it's like it's because I hate you, you know, like the crescendo to the end that Vanitas does. That was such a brilliant thing I think, like finding in record. One of my favorite moments recording, and it was so good. I had to step out of the booth because I was so loud. Was when Vanitas was he was like crashing out because he was realizing he was actually in love with Jana and not like that fake stuff he was doing. And he runs into Roland, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And it was like it's the highest I've ever had to push Vanitas' voice, and I don't think that was how it was in the J, but the picture was so visceral, and I was like,
it was pure Looney Tunes.
And I was like, how far can I push his voice into insanity? And that whole scene, even like we ad-libbed meet my friend, and like you let me do like a cough sort of mid-take on the off-screen. Like all that stuff is like super fun. Like they get good back.
I want to record this show all over.
Yeah, it was so fun. Yeah, like it was such a great show. It was cool, like kind of hearing like each new episode, like, oh, who's that and who's that, and like how I could like play off of that voice too. Like I liked that, like no matter I made a decision, no matter how you had anybody else say genre, like Vanitas would always say it like genre. You know, you know, and I thought of like you know how when you watch the Titanic, there's a specific way Leonardo DiCaprio says Rose, right? He says her name with such like reverence.
Yeah. And it's a beautiful word for that too, Jean.
Yeah.
It's all a really like a bunch of soft consonants, and it takes up a lot of space for a one-syllable word. Yeah. You can infuse words like that's what French is so great for.
Yeah. The French stuff was always great. It was always fun to work on. He would always give me the pronunciation. All the French you hear, he would be like, it's like this. And I would be like this? And he'd be like, no, like this. And I was like, okay. And so that was such a cool touch, I think, to have in the show. Even when he at first was like, I'm in love with you, he's like, Allah. Like, the way you made him whisper it. So great. It's such a...
Whispering is, for years, you know, when I started in anime, people would get upset. Engineers would get upset with whispering. It's like, oh, reset all my levels. Shut up! Because whispering is the most powerful thing you can do. It's so much, on a microphone, whispering is so much more powerful than screaming.
Yeah.
And like those moments, when you put a whisper, when you bring a peak moment and compress it into this tiny little noise, it just, a whisper sounds like it could explode. You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm looking for in a performance generally. It's not what you exude, it's what you restrain.
Yeah.
It's not what you're telling us about the character, it's what you're trying not to tell us about the character. I got a great piece of advice back in my theater days. A director told me once, I was doing a scene, it was at a play called Wonder Girl. It was written by a local guy at the time. No, we don't need history about the play. But I was working on a scene where my character had to get really, really emotional. And in rehearsal, I was going for it. I was like swinging for the fences. I was younger. And the director said, a piece of advice I'll never forget. What's far more interesting than watching an actor cry is watching an actor try not to cry. Mm-hmm. Just like in life. Because when we cry in life, like actors, for God's sake, if the actor's gonna cry, the actor's gonna find the spotlight and they're gonna cry unto the heavens. Mm-hmm. But in life, we don't want to cry. Even when we're alone, we're trying to hold it back. It's like, it's that restraint. Mm. And you don't get it. It doesn't sell if you're just, wah! Yeah. It just doesn't work. And it makes the moment so much less powerful than it could otherwise be. Yeah. But when you're trying not to let it out of the cage, and it's slipping out anyway, you get these moments where the audience gets to fill in the blanks. Right? The audience gets to decide where that emotion really is. The audience gets to feel it in them, feel themselves like rooting for the character to let that emotion out. Yeah. And in lieu of it, they let it out themselves. Yeah. It's a little psycho trick that we pull. But just, I couldn't have asked for a better cast to play all these little tricks on you guys.
It's so good. I always describe it as a show where everyone's in love with everyone. I was like, you think like, everyone's like, well, Noe Vanitas. And I'm like, yeah, but then there's also Vanitas Jumna. And then there's also Domi Noe. And,
Domi Noe.
I was like, everyone's in love with everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very freewheeling, French.
Yeah. I really, how did you, I don't know how, or even if you remember how this got done, but there's a scene where Vanitas and Noe are dancing, and Noe asks Vanitas, like, about love.
What is love?
Yeah, what is love? And Vanitas sort of laughs at him. But in the end, Noe steps on his foot, and I, do my best mocking of Stephen Fu's voice, which was a great, thing we did, right? It was so funny. But in the end result, because we have to record, one has to go before the other, and I think I went first. He had to either do it do the real version of me mocking it. Mm-hmm. However you guys did it, it layered perfectly, and I'm just so.
It was instinct. Yeah. I mean, it was your instinct because you did it right.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
You did it beautifully. In fact, as I recall, I don't think I let Steven hear that in his headphones until.
Really? That's so funny.
Yeah. I mean, it was like. You come to know the actors you're working with.
Right.
And I know just how Steven's going to read this. It's what Zeno did. Perfect.
That's so good.
I also, what I really loved the latter arc, the Beast of Gévaudan arc. With Chloe and Jean-Jacques. Mm-hmm. That was, of course, Brito Palencia and J. Michael Tatum, who you may know from from some other show where they played a butler or whatever. But once again, you have two actors together who've worked together so much and who know one another so well. And oh my God, you guys, you go back and listen to those scenes with Chloe and Jean-Jacques, and it's just, I just gotta chill. That doesn't happen. I just gotta chill. Yeah. You put the right actors together, and you get this synergy. You get this crackling electricity. In the audio world, in the music world, it's overtones, right? It's like you hear a note, but you're not just hearing that note. You're hearing a whole set of overtones, which give that note character. And when you have actors who are capable, who are as skilled as these actors are, and who are capable of anticipating where the other actor is going to go, and you just get this crackle. It is lightning in a bottle. And you can't acclimate that. I mean, you can't pretend to that. You know what I mean? There's no way to fake that. It's just the right combination of chemicals.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So good.
So anyone now have any questions about it?
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like I need to rewatch the entire show now.
I just did.
The question I have is, how did you nail Vanitas' laugh? Because it's very iconic and recognizable.
I think, and I don't know, I think I just kind of went for it. I think there's a wild delight in his laughter, and it's also there in the J, but he laughs about everything. And I think when I really understood it is when in the first episode him and Noah almost die, and he laughs it off. I was like, this is how he feels about his entire life. This is how he feels about every decision. He follows his instinct, and he laughs off danger and trouble and any sort of conflict. He just laughs it off, and so it sort of became this sort of like a manic, wild, carefree thing. And it's so interesting you ask this, because I try to make every character I voice laugh different. So Hawks has a different laugh than Remy, that has a different laugh than Vanitas. And Vanitas' laugh is very it's crazy. It's crazy, and but it comes from that freedom, this manic wildness that he has.
Well, manic is definitely the description.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Vanitas is a really good example of a bipolar person.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yes.
And that those manic episodes are clear as day, and then so are the little depressive episodes where he's sitting by the bell tower just pounding.
Right.
But you get it. I love characters like that. They're super mercurial. I've done a few myself. So but that's again where you find such power in. I find myself hopelessly enraptured with you.
Yeah.
And you get this moment of honesty, this moment of clarity, and the character is naked for you for a moment, metaphorically speaking. And you
before the actual
right, and you get this glimpse, and it's just a little, it's like a one shutter click, and it just you'll probably at some point or another through any of the episodes, you're like, do I hate Vanitas or do I love Vanitas? I can't decide. And then you get this moment, this just moment of pure authenticity, and then it's back to the laugh.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you're like, I'm pretty sure I just heard some honesty in there.
Right.
I think that character gave me a real version of himself, but
and because he doesn't like that, he has to laugh it off.
Yeah.
Right. That's kind of what I knew.
And then he gets mad and yells at people.
Yeah. And he has so many different laughs. He has laughs in disbelief, right? He'll laugh at Noe for saying he cares about him. He'll laugh that off, right? But he'll laugh at something ridiculous as well. And I think it's all in the presentation of it. He doesn't laugh almost ever to himself. He's laughing sort of for the room too. And it's very fascinating. It's the only character I played with a laugh that specific. It's so wow, I love it.
Anyone else? Questions? Yes.
Yeah, this is one specifically for Zeno. I wanted to talk about your work as Go in the Pokemon anime during the Journeys arc. How did you get that role? What was it like? What are some of your best memories from there?
Sure. Pokemon was actually around the same time as Hawks. It was sometime 2019. Pokemon, the show, was moving from New York to LA. The director was in town and auditioning. They wanted to Go is a bit darker skinned, so they wanted to audition a little bit more actors of color. I had a friend who was working at the studio at the time who DM'd me and said, hey, I got this project that I'm auditioning for. They want more actors of color. Would you like to come in and audition for it? So I did, but I did with the intention of voicing. I really wanted to be hot at this particular point in time for Pokemon. So I did kind of feeling like I wouldn't book it. I was like, oh, well, Go's probably around 10 or something. I probably won't book that. My voice probably won't be able to reach that like a woman could, right? They'll probably do the same similar thing with Ash. I auditioned for Go with Professor Cerise, and ended up booking Go. and it was a great time. It was interesting though. Pokemon started pre-pandemic, and then the pandemic started, and I had to move entirely to recording Pokemon from a small laptop in a small booth in my home that I built, like I Apocalypse built in preparation. I think like one of my fondest memories working on the show was just like the disbelief that I had booked it. I had like booked that and Hawks at around the same time, and I was like, I'm finally doing anime, right? And I went into the studio for the first time, and it was like, you know, official English dub of Pokemon, and I had grown up with the show, and so, you know, recorded the first 2 episodes, you know, Go rides the Lugia, and I'm like, wow, I'm actually like in a Pokemon thing as Go of all characters. It's insane. So, yeah, it was a great time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Vanitas questions. Yes.
All right, this is kind of not so much about voice acting, but just about the series because I love it so much. So, in the series, there's like, you know, little different groups there. There's like the Alphas vampires, there's the Dompires, and then there is the Cheshires. Which one do you feel like you would be in that universe?
I would be like Rico's character. Like I would be very much the Roland of the show. Like,
that is what I want to hear.
Yeah.
Cheshire fan, so.
Yeah, like that. Very like I'm also like a person of faith and like very much like a devout in that, and so yeah, like I think like me and Roland have a lot of interesting similarities that I think are funny when I play Vanitas to like completely play against, right? Like thinking that is ridiculous. Because it sounds ridiculous coming out of Roland's mouth, so yeah.
For me, I'm struggling suddenly I've blanked on the name of the character, but it was the one Jesse Greeley voiced. It was the Dompier.
Oh, Risha.
No, it was, you had, Risha was Lucy Christian.
Okay.
Oh, I can't believe I forgot it. It's terrible.
I'm trying to think of the one too.
But yeah, it was Dante's.
Johan?
Johan. I basically like rewrote all of Johan's lines, and that was like me.
Oh.
That was basically me. Johan was basically me.
Character. So this is adding up. This is making sense to me.
You just reminded me of another one of my favorite moments. I can't remember that PK character. I think who plays him?
Brandon?
Who's Tatum's?
Brandon.
Brandon McKinnon plays him.
Yes.
Oh dear Papa! I freaking love that scene. I've been ever since.
Yeah, and how about just like for one moment, can we celebrate Brandon McGinnis?
Yes.
As
yeah.
Salvo?
Oh my God.
Where he just loses his shit. It's like, God, that broke my heart.
Yeah.
And then I'm getting emotional.
Yeah.
And then Roland at the end, sort of becoming the dad and bringing him in and going, you know, like that.
Yeah.
That exchange, like, touched me really, really deeply. And I'll tell you something else. That's when, in my head, I cast Brandon as Mafiu in Given. It was his performance in that. Because again, and I want to change the subject. How much time do we have for this? 5 minutes. So, like I say, as I was saying before about restraint.
Yeah.
Brandon
McGinnis is like a brilliant actor.
And Brandon McGinnis, I mean, like you all know this, sings his ass off,
Yeah.
right? Wails.
Yeah.
And like, but as an actor, you know, I hadn't heard Brandon do a lot of stuff. I brought him in for Astolfo because I really wanted, like, I just had a feeling. There was just a little bit of, I don't know, I just had like, this is gonna be great.
Yeah.
I don't know why I feel this way,
Right.
but it's gonna be great. Because I didn't know Brandon's work extremely well at the time. And the way Brandon was able to go from that restrained Astolfo, that just pent up fury, to this huge emotional, a complete shattering of the psyche. Like, that character broke wide open. We saw all his trauma. And by the way, every character in this show is recovering from trauma. Vanitas is about trauma.
Yeah, yeah.
It's literally a metaphor for a bunch of different kinds of trauma.
Yeah.
And what Brandon did, I mean, that was a mess in the studio when he recorded that sequence. And it was after that I realized, because as I was saying, restraint, right? It would be very easy for me to find an actor to play a role like Matthew, who's always just sort of dry and flat and even. A lot of actors can do that quite naturally. But that is not what I wanted out of that character. What I wanted out of that character was for you to be able to hear that that human being is keeping themselves in the tightest little box they can possibly fathom. And given to, you know, I would make the argument that Matthew is a perfect picture of autism, and that Uenoyama is a perfect picture of ADHD. And we had a lot of conversations about that. I did a lot of research on that. I've got some touches of both myself. So it was important to me that those be, you know, not necessarily clear, because the show itself wasn't inferring those things, but I wanted, if you were looking for it, I wanted you to be able to find that. You know, if you were an ADHD person, I wanted you to be able to see yourself in Reed's Cup. If you were a person with autism, I wanted you to be able to see yourself in Matthew. And for me, anyone who argued that point with me, I was like, no, look at the flashback when he's a kid. He's like a 6-year-old kid, and he's lining up all his toys in order of size. Now, do you know how much effort the Japanese animators had to go through to draw that sequence? And like, there's a reason they did that. And Matthew's very dry, and sort of like his inability to read other people's emotions or respond to them. It's like that, you know, I've got my own experiences with autism, and that is dead on. So like, casting Brandon as Matthew, which took me a long time to get to, once again, had another actor in mind entirely. And Brandon's Astolfo, I was like, well, you have to be my Matthew now.
Yeah.
Because of what he can do when he's in that can, when he's in that cage and he's restrained, and that's what Matthew is all the time, and he doesn't know how to escape, you know, autism. And I like, this, Brandon's Astolfo just blew my face off.
So good.
Well, we are at time, and we got like 2 minutes for a speed round. Anybody else got any Fanny Pants questions?
Yeah, well, you get first.
Oh, please.
Yes.
Like, what's your personal like favorite scenes? Like for you, Zeno, like it doesn't have to be like some like a scene you voice, but like just one from your just favorite one from the show.
Oh, I have a particular fondness for Danny Chambers. There's a scene where they're at the dinner table, and
It's the scene, the dinner scene, where they're eating the tart tatas.
Yes. And
it's my favorite episode.
Yes. He's trying to force Vanitas to apologize for kissing Jana, and he goes, whoopsie! And he's like, what? And then like Danny has this incredible delivery of like, you certainly wouldn't kiss this no good, no for nothing, this disgusting piece of film, would you? And it was just, that entire episode was brilliant. But I in particular love that scene, especially because it comes off of this time where we're like, I don't know if I like Vanitas right now. That was really messed up. Yeah. And he's like, oops, my bad. You know, like,
I loved that episode. That was my favorite episode to direct, because it was all dialogue driven, and that's where we play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, I remember I gave Alexis a couple of fun little tea bits. There was one where she spit out her tea. We got a real I love tea sounds. I love it. And she did a little sip at the end of an awkward scene, you know. It's just like, that's a great like little trick for you actors out there. Someone says something really important and throws it away a little bit, and then someone does this. And you get that little slurp. I would have choked on that. Right. Can't do it without a teacup. But it's that tea sip that's just like the punctuation at the end of a moment. Just beautiful. But yeah, that was my favorite episode, that whole episode.
So good.
I was gonna ask if that when you were casting Brandon, was that had you heard his cover of Matthew's song, or?
I was well aware of it. I had heard it, and I was very aware of it, and it almost made me not cast him. And here's why. It was a brilliant cover, but everybody knew it. And in the show, when you hear that song come out of Mafia, it needs to be a surprise. And I was like, how am I going to surprise this audience? We had a whole plan for that song. I had written a new adaptation of it. We had plans. We just didn't get the go-ahead to dub the song. Of course, they did for the Spanish dub like 2 weeks later, so I'm not sure how that happened. But yeah, we were gonna take a different vocal approach to the song. It was gonna be like, you know, that was trouble for me because everybody already knew exactly what that song would sound like when Brandon sang it as Mafia, and I was like, that has to be a surprise. Everyone has to be shocked that that sound came out of Brandon. Of course, no doubt, Brandon can sing shit out of that song, but also, like, you already knew that. All of you already knew that. So, like, that takes my power to surprise you away. You know what I mean? So, a little advice to you: if you're gonna get into acting, don't cover anime songs for roles you want to play. Because if I'm directing the show, you're not playing that role. Everybody's expecting it, and I can't surprise the audience, and so you're out.
And you want him to direct you. Coming from me, you want to work with him as a director. He's so good.
But like that was, I didn't say it before, but that was what was in my head. That song, I was like, you've ruined it, Brandon. I can't surprise anybody with that song now. But then I heard his Astolfo, and I was like, shit.
See, and another, just be so good they have to cast you.
Good plan. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming. I really didn't think anybody knew anything about this show, so I'm so delighted.
Yeah, I'm the most popular guy. Like,
You got a print?
Yeah, I have several.
One.
Yeah, I have several. I have a little what's it what's it called? I can't think of it. The holographic. I have a little holographic.
Oh,
He's so gorgeous on it. Yeah.
I'm gonna just do prints of me sitting in a studio like chair and just go, Case Study of Vanitas.
You should. You should. Thank you guys for coming. I'm so glad. I don't get to do a lot of Vanitas movies, so this is super fun. Especially with, this is our first time meeting in person. This is so cool.
This is the first time in 2018.
Yay, welcome. Can I just say that before we I've been singing his praises all day, but like actually like a brilliant, not just a brilliant director, but a brilliant actor. You have such an incredible. I did one scene with you in like Show by Rock, and your comedic timing as that guy you played, I was like, he's so good. I could work with you on anything. I could listen to you do anything. I think you are a gift to the dubbing world we are in, and I want you to continue doing what you do.
I love this story. We will work together.
I hope so. You're such a joy. The best thing about working with him is he's got this laugh that comes from the depths of his soul. And he's hoping he's restraining it now. It's brilliant. It's brilliant to listen to, and it just makes the session so fun. So. There it is. There it is.
Knock it off. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you so much for
Enjoy
coming.
I'll be back in my autograph table shortly.
Yeah, as well I. Thank you for coming, everyone.
Cheers!
It's so good to see you. I've been waiting.